Hello, people.
Hello,
People of Earth. Hello, people of Earth. Mindful people of Earth.
5 people that watch our show.
Hello, the 5 people that watch our show. Welcome to the Mindful CEO is what we're calling it. We've been calling this Repurpose for a year. And last episode, we kind of introduced you to a new conversation called the Mindful CEO, which for Aaron and I kind of expanded the audience and sort of focused the conversation. So this is part 2. Let's just keep the conversation going.
Yeah, I wanted to do this specifically because stuff, in the world of mumbling.
Yeah.
We mumbled it last week and we were like, whoa, that sounds exciting. That's cool. Mindful CEO. I like the way the words sound, and it was sort of a gift from the AI before it kills us all. And, jumped on the domain name and started playing with it. And, because AI is going to kill us all, my Facebook feed all of a sudden became full of mindful coaches and just instantly started bombarding me with opportunities to get engaged in mindfulness. And then, one of the things that came up for me in the last week after, and this is really what it is to mumble through something, is to, you say it and then you sort of see what shows up around it, right? Like let things marinate, let things cook, see what it sounds like and what it feels like. And it sort of felt like, okay, wait a minute, who am I? Which is, we could flag that as a, anytime I think, who am I to blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Right. It's a flag that, imposter syndrome's coming up. Like, okay, whatever's going to follow this probably has less merit because who the fuck am I not to, really? I mean,
right.
Who's asking that question?
Yeah.
Who is asking that question? Who am I besides me?
Yeah.
Quick tangent, although I don't know if quick is the right word, but ADD tangent. And that's, after I wrote my first book or second book about real estate, I went to one of the senior agents founding agents of the KW office. And I was talking to him about it. And he said to me something like, not what gives you the right to, what makes you think you could write this book? And, I'm like 2 years in as an agent or something, very, very new. He's like, how did you, what makes you think you could write it? And I think I thought he was like joking or playing with me because he's sort of a sarcastic guy. And we're both sort of that snarky kind of sarcastic, so I didn't take it. I didn't take it badly when he said it. I said, I don't know. I know how to use a word processor. I know how to type is how I wrote it. I could see what I see about the business and I wrote it because I know how to write. And then I just moved on. I didn't really think very much about it until years later. And I was like, wow, I think he was actually asking me, who do I think I am for writing this book? Because the book really challenges some of the fundamental ways real estate is set up to do business, really fundamentally stupid foundation that realtors sit on in this country. And I think he was really asking me, who do you think you are? Which is, and now that I'm looking back on it, one of the rare times that someone else outside of my own head has asked me the question, who do you think you are for doing this? Almost never does it come up from the outside in.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Which is interesting, the vast majority of those occasions are me doubting myself way before someone else doubts my credibility.
Yeah.
So anyway, I was asking myself, who do I think I am to do anything about mindfulness? I've been practicing meditation since I was a teen. But I don't think I have any real standing in the world of mindfulness. I downloaded a mindfulness app once and, I have been engaged in what I think are sort of mindful stuff around the periphery of mindfulness, but I haven't done any real rigorous inquiry into mindfulness as its own body of distinctions. Yeah. So how clickbaity, buzzwordy, hopping on the everyday trend, 2 comma club of, funnel hacking. Are we for labeling ourselves having anything to do with mindfulness? Because we don't have any of the cred to do that, really.
I mean, it depends on how you're measuring it.
Exactly. Well, that's what what you and I just resolved was like, okay, wait a minute. Whoa. That whole rant that I just spewed out is a really, really valid rant for, the warriors for imposter syndrome, or warriors for your fake, could build that case.
Yeah.
And you could totally build that case. There's rarely are you could you not build a case for being an imposter about anything? You could always find ways in which you're full of shit. There's never any lack of evidence for how full of shit we all are.
Right.
About anything. And I don't care who you are, about what you're up to. You could build a case for how full of shit you are. So I don't think that's a defining property of anything valid, because you could do it. It's like, well, he died because what do all these people have in common was in their death? Well, one thing, they all drank water. Oh my God, there you go. Look at that. Water.
Yeah.
Is
Wow.
Correlation and causation. Big difference.
That's
so, with that said, I do think you and I are, coming about this from the realm of an inquiry, coming about this from, we do have enough practices that live inside the world of mindfulness. Yeah. That live inside of and I think that's what we wanted to do. And this one was like, okay, well, when we say that word, what does it mean to you? And, I was thinking we could Google the word and, sort of get definitions of it and see which ones resonate and which ones, if there's any of the world of it that we have no idea that was connected to mindfulness, that would be interesting to explore. But I think mostly what we're going to find is connected to the world of mindfulness and stuff that we're really, really familiar with, close to engaging in. I know. I
think there are a couple of things that are there for me. One is just as you're talking about, people who would say, well, who are you to talk about mindfulness, or give me your book on mindfulness, or how many hours, of 10,000 hours do you have in the practice of mindfulness? Like that there is a culture, especially in Western society. Maybe that's the society I live in. So there's definitely a culture of pedestals. I just see it everywhere now, where it's like, oh, if you have more hours than me, you have more money than me, you have more resume than me, that makes you more credible about mindfulness than me, right? Or whatever the topic is. And I am annoyed by the attitude of pedestals, because all it ever is a measuring contest that is super subjective to what makes you think you know more than me, or what I know more than you. Like, and I think it's especially in the space of mindfulness, to your point, like maybe before we hit record, your point was like, I don't even know if people who are in the mindfulness space would talk that way. People who are mindful don't go like, well, who are you to write a mindful book? Right. There are no competitive meditation, Yeah. Yeah. Right. I think the whole spirit of mindfulness is like, oh, it's curious. Yeah. It's aware and self-aware. Yep. It's interested. It's collaborative. So I think the whole thing of like, oh, that's interesting to me what you're seeing about mindfulness. Yes. Tell me more. That to me is mindful. Right. It's good. I think wonder is the word that comes up. Oh, good. Beautiful. Wonder. Yeah. Wonder. And now I am actually interested. So I am going to get on the Google machine here and just Google the word mindful. Okay. While you do that, let me just say this other thing too that's there for me, which is whether you study existing disciplines or modalities of mindfulness and then try to see how do we fit inside that ecosystem, or you don't even go there and you and I found a word. I mean, it's your word, but you and I mumbled through a word that felt like it held the work, regardless of what existing things are already there. I don't even care. Whatever you're about to read me about mindfulness is an exercise in curiosity, but I don't even care.
Right.
Because mindfulness, mindful CEO, as a conversation, as a place to inquire, is interesting enough in its own. I don't need something else to validate or prove or.
Right. And if you take it outside the domain of, or the context of competition,
Yeah,
proving, disproving, like that, and you put it in the domain of, okay, well, I'm interested in, if I say the word mindful, what are people likely to hear?
good. Yeah, good.
Right. Inside that, what do people that have been engaged with distinguishing mindfulness for a while say about it? Because we could find like-minded people to talk to, or we could find, wow, that's right. So here's just a real quick search, right? There's a website called the mindfulleader.org. Seems right up our alley, right?
Yeah.
3 components of mindfulness, and you're going to love these. Ready?
Yeah.
Intention, choosing to cultivate your awareness. Okay.
That's the second one, or that's part of it?
That's the first one. Intention, choosing to cultivate your awareness. 2 is attention to the present moment, sensations and thoughts. And 3, attitude, being kind, curious, and non-judgmental.
Beautiful.
I mean, hello. Right?
Hello.
All 3 of those things are things that we would definitely love, right?
Yeah.
Here's a website called Shanti Generation. And this is the 7 C's of mindfulness.
Ooh, alliteration. I love it.
Right? This is you. They came up with 7, mother. 7.
I tap out at 4.
Okay. No. Ready? Competence. Confidence. Connection.
Yeah.
Character. Contribution. Coping and control.
Wow.
And I think those are, none of those would really strike me inside what I know, or what I think I know, or I relate to mindfulness. But this is on, this is a 2-part series that is mindful yoga for kids, is the Shanti Generation is what they're speaking to.
Nice.
And, and I'm just skimming it now, but it's more like outcomes of mindfulness, really.
Sure.
Those are the outcomes of being mindful.
Yeah.
When you read the article, when you read what it's saying, right? Mindful.org says, are you supposed to clear your mind or focus on one thing? Here's the mindful definition of mindfulness. Mindfulness is the basic human ability to be fully present, aware of where we are and what we're doing, and not overly reactive or overwhelmed by what's going on around us.
Nice.
Great. Okay. So none of it surprising, right? None of it's like, oh, first of all, none of it's like, oh, I can't get behind that. What the fuck is that? Right. Oh,
right.
Found out we're raising our hand. Nazis. And it is all pretty much what we said. It's funny. The other problem that comes up with it now is, for me in the last week, because I shared this with you earlier, but I engaged in this conversation, this dialogue with my wife about it, and her reaction to it was somewhat of disdain, or that level of contempt that you and I have for funnel hacking, facking. And right. Where you grab a keyword, a buzzword, and you run it through ChatGPT, and you throw up a funnel and you sell a digital product. And
right.
And she found out I downloaded some mindful meditations, and she's like, oh great, you've done 0 work on meditation and 0 work on mindfulness, and now you're going to go sell mindful meditations. I was like, yes, that's besides what that was not at all, but her contempt for it was funny. And had me reflect on what we were doing. But besides that, the other downside is I got reactive about a couple of things that since then. And she was like, "Ooh, is that a mindful way to react?" I'm like, "Oh, you know what? Last time I share with you anything, dang it, she's gonna hold me to account for being mindful." So,
that's funny.
Yeah, it's funny. Yeah, but I do think in that world of the mindful CEO, really, right? We're bringing this to the intention, I think, and this would be for you and I to, sort of hash out, right? you know, the intention is here we are running a business.
Mm-hmm.
You know, here I am running my real estate business.
Yeah.
You know, and am I reacting or am I consciously, slowly aware of what's happening? You know, am I moving forward in a way that
Right.
aware? I think it's a really worthwhile conversation. There are really people who I'm thinking of one in particular, and I know Alan would come on our show like this. Alan Kahn does a lot of coaching of in businesses, and I know engages in mindfulness practices and could speak to the advantages of what this is. But, you know, when I think about what really attracted me to this personally wasn't so much a standard thinking about it, right? I'm interested in how Alan thinks about it. But what got me to it was that practice of what feels good, being mindful about being present to what I'm experiencing.
Yeah.
And from the Abraham Hicks version, you know, explication of the law of attraction was just, am I in the presence of what feels good? Am I in the presence of contrast? And am I moving towards what feels good? And am I using my awareness, my focus, my mindfulness to notice if what I'm either present to what I want or I'm present to what I don't want?
Yeah.
The contrast. And if I can move myself just closer to what I want and move and having that micro focus, just shift in little degrees towards what feels good. And that would be a mindfulness practice for me. And and I just thought that's how I got to it. That's what I think the mindful CEO, for me, how I've used it in my business. I don't even used it, because that's like, so goal oriented. And so, right. Getting somewhere. So I don't know that we want to, I'll probably come up with other language, but that for me was like, oh yeah, if I feel good, you know, and that really came up. I've shared this before about the self massage.
Right.
It was like, oh yeah, I could always focus on this. And it's had, you know, it's had amazing results in my business. I mean, just since I started that practice, my business is exploding. And I notice I'm hesitant to say it. I still have in my genetics, my neuronal pathways of don't jinx shit.
Oh, yeah.
You don't talk about good stuff. Which is a wildly, weirdly superstitious thing to be connected to, because it's the antithesis of the law of attraction. It's the antithesis of what we're committed to. It's, you know, it's holding out. Wow, look, that phenomenon of don't jinx it is holding out for that nugget of everything's going to fall apart. Don't get too happy. Don't feel too good. You know, so if you say it, it's going to blow it. The only place I think that's valid of a way to do it is relating to, I'm just trying to think if it's baseball in particular or sports in general. Baseball for sure. I mean, I know it's a tradition in baseball, but you just don't.
I was playing golf a couple weeks ago, and I was having a good round, and I was like, I don't want to look at my score. I don't want to talk about I didn't want my playing partners to ask me about it. Don't talk to me about it. For the same reason. You're like, I don't want to jinx it.
Right.
That's etiquette, man. Don't talk about score. Like, that's a known, if you're a golfer, you really golf, don't talk about the score.
Well, and a no hitter, you know, in baseball, they won't talk to the pitcher between innings. No one even talks to him. You'll see them
culture
in the dugout from this, like the fifth or sixth inning on, they're by themselves. No one, and the announcers never talk about it. I mean, it's just
right. Just us.
Well, the announcers talk about it, but you're not, that's
so funny.
It's funny. Anyway, don't jinx the culture. Anyway, so that's an interesting thing.
There's a a piece here also in the word mindful CEO, like that. You read the definition of mindful from that, the last thing you read about being present, and and that feels good, and I like that, and I believe that, and you know, and I strive for that. And there's and then there's the part of me that's visionary, that wants to have social impact, that wants to change the world, that is like, let's go somewhere. And I'm future focused, not in the present moment. I keep like, what's next? And I actually like that tension between mindful and CEO, because CEO as part of the name and the brand holds for me that pioneering, let's go make change kind of energy. And mindful to me keeps me in the present moment, grounded, connected to my source. Like that there's this balance, this yin and yang between being mindful and having an initiative and a direction, a true north that I'm pursuing. You know, I just really like the interplay between those two.
Yeah. And you know, I like CEO also because it's specific to business. It's not some it's not a leadership as a distinction, you know, it's not leadership as a generalization.
Right.
It's a specific kind of leadership. You're leading a business, you're leading something that's going to generate either profit or growth, or, you know, I mean, if you're a CEO, are there CEOs of nonprofits? I guess there are.
They'd be called executive directors.
Right. Okay. Yeah, so it has that, it's specific to the exchange of goods and services for money. You know, it's specific to that phenomenon of that, because it's one thing to be a thought leader. It's one thing to be, you know, a political leader, a community leader, and be mindful. And that's wonderful, needed, critical. And, you know, where, you know, certainly where, I don't know, this is, let's see, this is certainly a past-based bias of mine from my very left-wing culture, leftist parents. You know, the left generally trusts government more than business. And the right trusts business more than government.
Right.
And we always trusted government more than business. I mean, business was definitely the root of all evil. It was, you know, the corporations were here to suck maximum value out of the earth and turn it over for profit. That's pretty much the story of my background and political background growing up. And I mean, it wasn't quite that cut and dry, but that was, you know, my parents were definitely to the left of the political spectrum, pro-union, that kind of thing. And so I think mindfulness in business, right? If you look at the global crises that are around, from environmental to, you know, fair wages, to healthcare, to the real impact that business has on our life on the planet, right? And this is what people keep referring to as late stage capitalism. Mindfulness seems missing. You know, that there's a lack. If you go back to the 7 C's, there's a lack of those. Character,
right,
competence, right? If you go to you know, intention and attention and being present, that there's, you know, I often think that you know, we got to be, the thought I had, the thought I'm trying to articulate here is, you know, you got to be I think for me, I have to be intentionally unaware, unpresent, unmindful, intentionally unmindful to eat meat. That very little way could you certainly commercial processed big pharma, you know, big farm, corporate farm meat
Right.
You know, you got to intentionally, you know, Sinclair Lewis's book about the meat industry. I cannot remember that name of that book, but you know, from the 50s or 60s. You know, slaughterhouses in Chicago. You just can't allow yourself to be present to the terror and the horror of what happens to those animals that you're now eating. You couldn't do it. You just can't be. I couldn't do it. That
are you vegetarian, by the way? I didn't.
No.
Are you?
No, I'm not.
You're consciously unmindful.
Yep. Yeah, I consciously avoid thinking about that.
Yeah, I do too. That's so weird that you say that. In the last week or two, I've actually been like, if I had to go out and kill my own meal, I think that would be really hard for me to do. Like,
I have a very good friend. That's the only kind of meat he eats is meat that he'll kill.
but I'll buy it in the grocery store from the system. But if I had to go do it myself, the horror of killing a living being would, I mean, I used to fish and that was no problem for me, but to a goat, a sheep, a cow, I just don't know.
Right. Very good friends of ours. I mean, we have multiple friends that are farmers on the island that raise pigs. And they slaughter their own pigs. And, you know, sweetest people, great. I'm sure they give the pigs a great life and they, you know, have a, you know, it's not this pack them into a pen, have their whole life suffer and then pack them into a truck and, you know, have everything about their death be horrific. But nonetheless, you know, they kill chickens, they kill pigs, you know, they kill cows, they, you know, and then, so where do you draw that line, you know, and then where does that fall into the conversation for mindfulness? And there is that level of, the way I got to this, the tangent I was following in my head that got me to the horrible practices of the meat industry was, I think mindfulness is missing with where it is, but let's just say the bulk of CEOs that are profit driven and consciously avoiding dealing with the impact that their business is having on people, you know, the environment. You couldn't use your iPhone and be anything but consciously unaware. Consciously suppressing your mindfulness when you consider who's making that iPhone and what their living conditions are and the actual economics of what go into the production of your iPhone. You just are consciously avoiding mindfulness. You have to be. If you weren't, you are now, because you just heard me say it. And now you have, if you're not going to go investigate what that is, then you're consciously avoiding mindfulness. And I don't think that's abnormal or weird, or I don't have contempt for that at all. Really. I don't, you know, not like I do funnel hacking.
It's interesting that you can have more contempt for funnel hacking than you can for
Lamborghini leading. I really don't, you know, because I like my iPhone.
That's interesting. Yeah.
But that's you know, now is that a lack of mindfulness? I'd like to engage in that question with other people that have been engaged with mindfulness for longer than the 2.5 seconds you and I have been.
That's great.
That is going to be a question that comes up a lot when we interview people, because I'm fascinated by that idea of conscious avoiding of mindfulness, avoiding of being aware.
You know, some podcasts have like a recurring question, like always end with
what book have you read?
Yeah. Like ours is like, you know,
what are you consciously unaware of?
Exactly.
Consciously avoiding being aware of.
Yeah.
I think that's a really valid question to ask people. What are you consciously avoiding being aware of? Because look, you know, that's a really rich question. I really enjoy this question because, first of all, you have to be authentic.
Right.
To be engaged in this in any way that doesn't get you totally plugged in and reactivated, right? You'd have to you'd have to be really you know, willing to be authentic where you've been inauthentic. You'd have to be willing to confront your inauthenticity, as they say, because otherwise it's just a really reactivating question and not funny at all. right? Because people are gonna be like, no, I'm not actively, right? Which is bizarre, right? I mean,
we're all consciously avoiding some conversation. I mean, like, you know, when I saw some YouTube thing that was like, it was like, it was a thumbnail of President Obama and some dude, and the caption was something like, you're too smart to not be terrified. It was something like, you know, like, if you really know all that is happening in the world, for you to like just be like, it's no big deal, you'd be like, okay, well, we're consciously avoiding
totally
the shitstorm that could happen at any moment because AI is going to kill us all.
Totally. I used to have a bumper sticker. This was during George Bush, but it hasn't gotten any better, which was, if you're not completely appalled, you're not paying attention. And, you know, it's like that. I mean, you know, and at the same time, this is so interesting, Chris, because at the same time that everything we just said is, in my experience, is true. I have an experience of all of that being true. It's also equally true, if not, I don't know if you can get anything more true, but either it's true or it's false. Is if you just let yourself get present to the miracle of just how you and I are connected, or how you and anything are connected, or how I and anything are connected. If you just got present to a leaf and you watch a bug on a leaf, and you really allow yourself to get present to a bee in a flower, or a butterfly, or grass growing, or that you were in fact a cell that was divided by a sperm, you know, that was that your fingernails know to be fingernails, and that your lack of hair knows to be a lack of hair, and that we're breathing in air and expelling carbon dioxide, and that's being turned back into air by trees, which really just take water and sunlight and somehow sort it out. I think we're also consciously avoiding being present to that, to the unbelievable fucking miracle that you just couldn't even function if you allowed yourself to get present to who people are, the person next to you on the bus, or the person at the cafe next to you, or the barista, or the person that made the coffee, that roasted the coffee, that shipped it, to all of it, the interconnectedness of all of it. You just couldn't move. It would be too moving for you. You'd be too inspired. You'd weep at every moment if you just let yourself get present. So I think I mean, that for sure is, I don't even think that's a spectrum between, you know, the meat industry and the bug and a leaf matter. I think that's a circle. So I think that there's you know, a lot to be aware of. Right? And then it's, you know, you know, again, how does that make a difference in your being a CEO? Well, I don't know. That's the inquiry, right?
That's the inquiry. Well, that's the inquiry. I think what I love about the word mindful is that it invites that inquiry. Like, you know, if you're being present to the circle, if you're being present to a spectrum, any of the things that are devastating and morally unconscionable, or the things that are like miracles that would have you bawling at the sheer fact that it exists. I mean, and then in the middle of all of that, how do I, as a CEO, have a true north and go pursue what feels like my life's work? Like, that's the inquiry. How do you do that? I don't know. I want to hear how other people, I mean, I think that's what's cool about a community built around that inquiry, is like, how are you doing it? And here's how I'm doing it. Nobody has this answer. There's no funnel to hack here. You know, there's only what you're present to as a mindful CEO and what I'm present to as a mindful CEO, and comparing notes as we walk each other home.
Great. And it's right. Good. We'll leave it right at that. Great. So we really do. I would like to just end this episode with, you know, an open invitation for anyone who's got thoughts of mindfulness, thoughts of how it applies, how it doesn't apply, questions about mindfulness, and where you'd like to see this conversation go, to reach out to us, because I'm excited about this new path for us, and I like the connotations for it. And you know, we're at the beginning stages of iterating something that I think is a real opportunity to make a difference and be a very fruitful challenge.
Yeah. That's awesome. Thanks, Aaron.
Yeah, man.
I don't remember our domain, not that it's up and ready for anybody, but what did we get? We got it last week. mindfulceo.org.
I think it's themindfulceo.com.
Did we grab the .com? Nice.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we grabbed the .com because I think it was themindfulceo.com.
Beautiful. Okay, well, there you go, peeps. Go hang out there and see you next time.